at all.
Oh,
It's very grounding and calming for certain.
thank you. It
Well,
is
hey,
to me.
that's what grandmas are for, right?
Hmm.
Hmm.
That's one of the ways that we help keep the family together. Okay, so I guess want to welcome everyone to Becoming Earthwise, and we are growing up in our little podcast history. We have with us today Marcus Robeson, and let me just read a few tidbits from his bio. Let's see. He's the founder of Good Earth Therapy. He first stepped into the work in 2017, formalized in 2020. He was a new Black farmer searching for mentorship, representation, a place to root. And he found that the USDA just had Black farmers missing, miscounted, and erased. So, what began as a personal search for community became his mission to map, uplift, and reconnect the growers that history tried to forget. He's a steward at Woodbox Farm, a quarter-acre learning farm specializing in watermelons, pumpkins, and peppers. Uh, the farm came into existence in 2018 during the pandemic, producing more food than markets could move, and it revealed that there were deep cracks in our community support systems. So that season of giving beyond his own capacity pushed his work from the field into organizing and ultimately what he has today, which is Good Earth Therapy. So, and again, in addition to his on the land work, Marcus created a digital storytelling and verification tool that honors the full arc of their labor and lineage. This is technology built not to replace humanity, but to protect it. His work braids land stewardship, healing, and innovation with a simple belief. Okay, y'all ready? This is what this farmer believes. He believes that growing food must also grow dignity, memory, and community of the soil, of lineage, and of the emotional well being of people who tend the land. He sounds like he's some of our kind of people, don't you think, Grandma Nyame?
For sure. For sure.
Yeah. So in this, I'm gonna do a little bit of sharing.
I'm pleased to be here. Thank you for reading all of that. I know it was a bit of a mouthful, but thank you for sharing all of that and taking the time to make that introduction. I appreciate y'all.
Yeah, well, we appreciate you, and so we want you to feel warm and embraced, even though it's a little nippy where you are. Tell us where you are right this moment.
I'm in Alexandria, Virginia. I'm just returning from running some errands and leaving the farm. So I didn't want to kind of be stuck in a store on the call on speaker. So I'm standing outside at the moment.
Oh, okay. We are a diligent people. I tell you, we are diligent people. I want to share. I wanted to, because this is autumn and we have, lots of signs of leaves falling and things that are letting go. I wanted to share this to begin our segment. I span the tree line where the sun is shining, and I search for the rain that I hear falling, only to see an ocean of leaves falling only one barrel at a time. It's as if Mother Tree asked Wind, would you please sweep this corner of my branch? Oh, now, would you please sweep this corner of my branch? She's emptying her branches with a sculptor's grace, balancing color in air and on earth. A musical rift of as above, so below. It felt so good watching leaves falling in rhythm with sounds of caressing edges in a last embrace. Intermittent letting go of this season's passions, growth, and progress. The sounds were so calming and reassuring that nothing left behind is needed right now to obstruct the openness birthing my soul. In fact, every time I sit in my chair beside the camper, another wave of leaves gently fall in the middle of the road, reminding me to softly release feelings of failure turned opportunities, jumping up to just whatever. And even pride can obscure next season's vision. Even next season's vision isn't fully dressed to enter my inner landscape. Can I please just enjoy this season's finale? Intermittent letting go softly creates so much space. I invite you to listen to your leaves falling wherever and whenever you can. So, this idea of letting go a little bit at a time, intermittent letting go, you know, Inami and I have been talking about things that we need to let go of to become earthwise. And one of the things that needs some attention is our money system. Letting go of greed, this idea that we can get something for nothing. And yes, not the capitalists are not the only ones who are greedy. Sometimes we are too. So I don't know. Nyame, do you want to share with us some of your thoughts about letting go of greed and our money system?
Yeah, it's a it's a really big thing. I think that lack is the core of greed. And I say that because we are so disconnected from nature, we are so disconnected from life that we don't realize that the abundance of earth and the abundance of nature is also our abundance. But because we have lived in an extractive, exploitative overculture for so long, we see things as finite. And you got to get it while you can and use it up and then try to do something else. So that lack causes I can never get enough of nothing. And it goes into greed, and then greed is abusive. And so when we get to the point where, as a society, no matter what side of the line that we're on, if we can see people who don't have and people who do have and cannot work to balance that out, then the greed has become a disease, because there is enough of everything in nature on this planet for everybody to thrive. But if only a few thrive, then the masses have to, they're not without, because they have land. And this is another thing. I spent some years in Mexico. And so the people who have land, they are still very connected to everything. But because we don't have land in this part of the Western hemisphere, and I say land, we might have a house, but the undersoil or the subsoil of that house doesn't belong to us, only the soil that the house is sitting on. So if they come and say, oh, we want to dig for whatever in the subsoil, then you're upended again. So we have become so much a part of a overculture that is hollow, so they only see lack, that we have also taken on this persona.
One of those conundrums, it seems to have seeped its way into our whole farming dynamic. And that's why I'm glad Marcus is here, really to have a conversation, because we kind of came in up against the irony that some farmers are growing food and some farmers are growing money. And there seems to be a rub between growing food and growing money. Marcus, can you speak to that? Can you enlighten us what that's all about?
Yes, I believe so. There's a lot of inputs that come with farming. Chief one being that the labor, the the seeds, the time, the energy, the effort, the everything that goes into extracting requires some degree of effort. And the effort that farmers exert is by and large unseen until folks come to get their produce. They don't see the time spent analyzing seeds, speaking to the sister's words about the soil, ensuring that they're growing in the most healthy and least volatile way possible. And that's whether it's avoiding the use of any type of chemical inputs in the form of man-made synthetics, pesticides, herbicides, even fertilizers. Everything is done to grow the soil first before the seed grows in. Once that seed goes in, or ideally before it goes in, there's a considerable amount of work ensuring that you're able to make sure that it grows. You need water. You need to identify what some of your threats are in terms of weeds and pests, and doing things to mitigate that with, again, without using poisons or anything that would go into the soil, which would then go into the food, which goes into our bodies. These are all of the considerations that take place behind the scenes that, even though it's been labeled organic, is just a way of growing in community with the earth, the soil, and the people that we're attempting to feed. It's a lot of responsibility. It's a lot of forethought, planning, and divine execution, because we're also fighting the elements. We're fighting, what do we do if we grow all this food and we don't have anywhere for it to go? There's a cost that comes with not having anywhere for your food to go. It's first of all the waste of your time, effort, and energy, as well as the waste of that food, and then everything that comes after that. If you don't have anywhere for that food waste to go to, then it's going to rot there in your fields. You're going to attract more pests. The pests are going to then go after everything else around. Again, a lot of thought goes into how we do this in a way that we're able to provide value both in nutrient dense foods that are grown locally and seasonally, but again, in a way that folks are able to appreciate what we've done.
Okay, so I have a question. You talk about there's nowhere for the food to go. Now, if we imagine that we shift from a market economy and to a gift economy, couldn't we grow the food that we want and just share it amongst each other?
Absolutely. And that's where the community comes in. One of the things that we found is that you have individual farmers who, recognizing that it is a business and that they are that or that they have these inputs, that they have to make it pay somehow, because at a certain point, and this is for any business, if all you're doing is putting your money into that business, it's a hobby. It's no longer a business, in which case you have to write it off as such and treat it as such. But if you have expenses that come with operating that business or hobby, as it may be, then you have to account for those. Um, in a
So can I
community
ask
effort,
one other question?
sure, sure.
Oh, because you're a farmer, I kind of want to, pummel you a little bit. So just take this as friendly, uh, a friendly exchange. But we've looked online and we've seen that say a family of 3 or 4 people could actually grow 6,000 pounds of food on 1/10 of an acre.
Hmm.
No, 6,000 tons,
Oh
not
my
pounds,
gosh!
in a
Oh,
year.
in a year.
Hmm.
Okay, so 6,000 tons of food in a year uh, on 1/10 of an acre. Wouldn't that make them farmers? And
If they're growing for subsistence purposes, then they're growers. Technically, yes, they are farmers, but if they're not growing to reach market, then it takes the business aspect out of things. But it still requires labor, it still requires efforts, and it still requires inputs. And if that family of 3 or 4 only has 2 people who are actually doing the work, that could have that 6,000 pounds to 3,000, with 3,000
um,
pounds going to waste, unless there's a community there where, if I'm growing tomatoes and my neighbor is growing cucumbers and my other next door neighbor is growing lettuce of some sort, then we have the ingredients for a salad in solidarity. But if we're each growing independently in an attempt to just reach market, or if we're only feeding ourselves, that's not community, that's commerce.
Wow. And Yami, do you have any questions in this conversation?
Yeah, I have a lot of questions, but I'm gonna go with this one. Then the real issue is to create community where when we grow, we eat what we grow and we gift what we have left over. I spent time in the bush in Africa, and that scenario that you just gave in the early AM, somebody would come around with goat milk, somebody had tomatoes, somebody, and at the end of the day, everybody in that compound had what they needed that they were going to make for dinner that day. So I've seen some different scenarios, and I think that community coming together to do a thing, okay, whether it's a family or a group of families, if we can grow 10,000, 6,000 pounds of food in a year on a tenth of an acre, that could include a whole bunch of families in close proximity. So if you have a whole bunch of families, then you have the potential to have more workers. And I think that we have lived in the individualistic society, consumerism, and so on and so forth for so long that it looks kind of obscure that I live in 1 square mile neighborhood community association. And if I had two different tenths of an acre, we could feed this whole community. So I think that maybe the lens that we have grown to look through has kind of obscured the lines of what community is and what we can do collectively with a lot less than we think we need.
What do you think, Marcus? Uh-oh.
I believe that that's a goal that many of us are striving towards in terms of building these communities of support that enable us to both work together, live together, eat together, which requires a high level of collaboration, partnership, and cooperation. Again, we're all striving for that, but I don't believe we've reached that yet. And speaking purely from a farmer's perspective, just having folks who know what they're doing on a farm makes all the difference. So within that community, we would have to build up the capacity of skilled land stewards versus folks who are there unwillingly or begrudgingly.
Okay, so we have many steps to that we need to perfect before we get to this ideal of a community feeding itself. So this is all that we're going to talk about for today. But Marcus, we're going to have you back because I know you are an expert in logistics. And we know that in our current food system that the distribution is really the critical problem more so than the ability to grow. So would you be willing to come back and continue this conversation about food and farming, money and farming?
Absolutely. And thank you for allowing me to be here and speak today. And I say everything that I've said with the full understanding that I'm standing on the shoulders of the ancestors who have been doing this both for a while or have done it all before. Nothing I say is new. It's the same struggle. We've just inherited it, and we're trying to create something different to pass forward. Again, thank you. And if you need me, don't hesitate to reach out.
Oh, we're not letting you go. Don't worry.
Not at all, not at all.
No, we love your spirit. We love your consistency and your persistence. And obviously, that's what it's going to take to help us move to that next dimension of living with Earth. So we're grateful for everyone who has tuned in for today. Please subscribe to the channel. Also contribute. There's some links there so that we can continue this. We can expand our episodes and bring more expertise. Thank you. Bye.